My husband and I have 6 children and live in a 4-bedroom home. As you can imagine, space is tight. My husband and I have one room, the 2 eldest share, the middle 2 share, and the youngest 2 share. This question pertains to my eldest 18 female. She recently started university in September and moved to live in student accommodation there. So she kept her weekend job here and planned to travel in and stay here on Friday night and leave to go back to university on Sunday after work. She's looking for a job closer to her university but hasn't found one that pays as well as her current one. When she left, I told our second oldest 16 female that the room was now hers alone. We sold my eldest bed and wardrobe and drawers to make more space, and instructed my second eldest to leave one drawer free for the eldest to put her belongings when she returned for her weekends. When eldest returned on her first weekend back, she asked what happened to her bed and wardrobe, and I explained the above and that she doesn't live here anymore, so she doesn't need it at all. We provided her with a camp bed to sleep in the room with that she could fold up and store when she left. She was unhappy and went to bed. Later that night I checked her Twitter and she had tweeted, "I feel like I don't have a home anymore," with a sad face. I was furious that she brought our family business into social media and woke her up to tell her so. We argued and I ultimately told her that if she doesn't feel like this is her home anymore, then she needs to leave and get out of my house. She did, and my husband was able to find out that she made the last train back to her university town that evening. The following Friday, she messaged me to say, very bluntly, "I'm sorry for tweeting about how I felt. I won't do it again." She has also either deleted her Twitter account or changed her account name and blocked me, so I can't verify if she'll stick to this. However, I told her that I forgave her and that she's welcome to return again. She's not returned home since that weekend. Throughout the entirety of the month, she didn't come home once and has been instead traveling to and from work both Saturday and Sunday instead of coming to our home. I messaged to ask her when break begins to find out when she was returning, and she said that her flatmate's parents have told her that she can spend the break with them. That's what she'll be doing. Was I really wrong in how I dealt with this? That I've pushed my daughter away? My husband thinks so, and so does my second eldest, but I believe that I handled it well. Perhaps I shouldn't have told her to leave, but does that warrant her abandoning her family? Am I in the wrong for telling my daughter to leave for embarrassing me on social media? My fiance left me after he found out about my college days. I've been with my fiance for 2 years, engaged for 2 months. I can go on and on about how great he is, but I won't waste your time. He's awesome. Him and my sister's boyfriend have gotten really close over the past year, and they talk at least twice a week, whether on the phone or FaceTime or just hanging out with all 4 of us. Sister has been dating her boyfriend since high school, so obviously her boyfriend knows me very well, as well as my dating history. Last weekend, we all thought it would be fun to drink and hang out over FaceTime. It was a FaceTime double date and we all had a blast. Laughing, playing drinking games. We all partied for over an hour, and that's when I was over it and decided to leave the party to call my sister directly without the boys in the other room. Well, my fiance and her boyfriend stayed on the FaceTime and continued to get drunk together. During this time, I couldn't hear shit because I was in another room and was talking to my sister. Sister's boyfriend goes and tells a bunch of stories about my college days and how many guys I hooked up with. Just so everyone knows, I don't know the actual number. My first 3 years of college was literally one giant party. Without being too descriptive, I admit I was excessive. But at that time, it was just what we did. I was single during that time, and me and my friends with a lot of guys. Most of the men I couldn't even pick out in a lineup. But again, I was in college. Anyway, one of the parties that I went to, I ended up hooking with 4 different guys at the same time. This is relevant later. My fiance is handsome as fuck, and I know for a fact that he's been with several women. We talked about our past a lot in the beginning of the relationship. I wasn't 100% honest with mine, and I can only assume that he was. After everyone hung up, me and my fiance were laying in bed about to sleep when he just calmly asked me, "Did you get gangbanged in college?" My response was, "What the fuck? Why would you ask that?" That's when he told me everything that my sister's boyfriend told him. He told me details I'm not even sure are 100% true because, again, blur. But a lot of that information was accurate, so I just told him yes. It was one time. He continued asking questions about other stuff, but the gangbang thing kept coming up, and he had a lot of questions about it that I answered to the best of my knowledge. Fast forward to Wednesday. Things have been fine and normal Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. But on Wednesday, radio silence. He hasn't texted or talked to me in 3 days. The breaking point was tonight when he came home from work and asked me, "Are you friends with any of the guys on Facebook?" Again, not lying to him, I admitted yes, I was friends with all of them. He left a few hours ago and I have no idea where he is or what he's doing. I'm tempted to call the cops, but I feel like I will just make things worse. I feel like garbage. I fucking hate my sister's boyfriend right now, but maybe it's not even his fault. Maybe I should have been more honest. I'm so lost. He's the best thing to ever happen to me, and I've never seen him like this before. Is this the end? He refuses to return my calls and texts. I, female 27, have been married to my wonderful husband, male 30, for 5 years, but we've been together for 7 years total. In all that time, my parents, female 58 and male 60, have never really taken a shining to him, but everyone has always been amicable. That is, everyone except my sister, female 22, who seems to think that the world revolves around her. She is the light of my parents' lives, and can do absolutely no wrong in their eyes. Simply put, my husband and I generally keep our distance from her. Last weekend was my dad's 60th birthday, and everyone was invited. My husband and I went knowing that my sister would be there, but we didn't think too much of it. We expected a pleasant evening celebrating my dad. Now it's important to note before we go further that my husband follows certain dietary restrictions as part of his religion, which I'm keeping vague, but everyone in the family knows and has been accommodating thus far. Unfortunately, after everyone had eaten dinner, my sister announced that she had specifically asked the caterers to add in some of the restricted food items so that she could test if my husband would even know the difference. To say the least, I was furious. Just for clarification purposes, the restricted ingredients were added into the sauces and there were no noticeable pieces. My husband and I were absolutely appalled and just walked out while my sister yelled that she didn't get the big deal and we need to take the sticks out of our butts. My parents had absolutely nothing to say and just watched. They later texted me that I should consider the fact that my sister is young and didn't know better. I did not respond. I went absolutely no contact with everyone since the party and didn't respond to a single message or phone call, nor did my husband. When my parents showed up at the house, we didn't open the door. When they showed up at my work, I didn't go to reception. I haven't laid eyes on them at all. Today, some cops came knocking on my door saying that they had received a missing persons report and were looking for me. Fortunately, that was all solved quickly in that I never actually went missing. But now my friends are saying that I wasted police resources when I could have just texted my parents back saying that I didn't want to hear from them. I just feel like a grown woman should not have to justify where she is to her parents. So, am I in the wrong for disappearing and causing my parents to lodge a missing persons report? My best friend, 31 male, and I, 27 male, have a tradition of taking a yearly weekend trip together that's phone free. We've been doing this for over a decade now. These weekend trips consist of us staying in a suite and exploring the city, not traversing the wilderness, so it's not like we're completely disconnected. Still, we like to keep one on hand for navigation and emergency purposes, and it would usually be Friend's phone that we brought along. Fred and I left our trip 2 Fridays ago to make use of the long weekend. This was the first time I've gone on one of these trips since my wife and I moved in together, got engaged, or got married. However, we were dating for the last 2 years worth of trips, 2021 and 2022, and she seemed fine during that time. I would just tell her that I was going to be busy for the weekend and she'd leave me alone. I understand there are different expectations once you get married, but I didn't expect for the 180 in behavior. My wife all but demanded I take my phone as well in case she needed to get a hold of me despite her having Friend's number. I let her know I had arrived and immediately after she was texting me and asking me how things were. Then again, asking me another question when I didn't respond to the first one. I eventually muted our text conversation because I was sick of the phone buzzing. She called me a few hours later and asked why I wasn't responding to her texts. I reiterated that this was supposed to be a no-phone weekend and kept the call short despite her trying to drag out the conversation. She called me once more after this. When I answered the phone and found out it wasn't an emergency, I simply turned my phone off. The calls then started coming in from my friend and he followed suit. We spent the rest of the weekend with our phones off until the drive back on Monday. I called my wife and informed her when we were 30 minutes away from my place and she was furious. She said that there ended up being an emergency. Her sister got into a car accident that won't affect her long term, but still resulted in broken bones, and that I had just ignored her the entire time when she needed me. I told her that I was very sorry about her sister, but it wasn't my fault she had essentially forced my hand into cutting off means of communication. She went to stay with a friend before I arrived home that night and has since came home, but she's still fuming. So, am I in the wrong for missing an actual emergency because I turned my phone off to avoid my wife's unnecessary contact attempts during my tech-free weekend? My best friend's husband confessed his feelings for me. Her life was very difficult and she says she's finally happy, so how do I tell her? Mia, 32, and I, 32, met in college and we were best friends ever since. Mia was always very family-oriented and romantic, even when she was a kid. Her ultimate life dream was to have a big, happy family. Sadly, Mia had a very difficult childhood. She lost her entire family, younger sister and both parents, from ages 10 to 12. She was in the system for a while until her abusive uncle took her in. Obviously, Mia was and is very mentally unwell, and just a few months ago, she managed to get off her meds and stop going to therapy. Mia and her husband, Rick, 34, are together for 2 years now and married for 6 months. In my opinion, it was all a bit rushed, but Mia was scared that she wouldn't be able to have children if she waited, and to be honest, Rick seemed to be her perfect match. She was aware things were going faster than she initially wanted, but reassured me that her and Rick are on the same page. It's her life after all, so if she's happy, so am I. Rick and I neither love nor hate each other. He's my friend's husband, so at best we tolerate one another. We don't have any common interests and our lifestyle goals are very different. Fast forward to New Year's Eve. Mia and Rick organized a party and invited me and my partner, 31, to join. Everything seemed fine. Rick and I were chatting with some friends when I decided to go outside to breathe in some fresh air. Rick followed a few minutes later. We casually talked about some irrelevant things when he suddenly says that he's in love with me. I thought it was just one of his stupid jokes and I was totally blindsided by it, so I just laughed. joked back and hoped that he will drop it. Sadly, he just doubled down and got visibly upset, started saying how he doesn't want to spend another year unhappy and how being with Mia is exhausting because of her trauma and that he deserves better than that. At this point, I got very nauseous and just wanted to get away from it all. So I told him that he has no idea what he's saying and we'll talk about it once he gets his shit together. Mia and Rick are trying for a baby, so I obviously have to tell her as soon as possible. The thing is, I have no idea how to do that. How do you approach a person to tell her the best part of her life is a lie? How do you address something like this with the person who spent the vast majority of her life on antidepressants and being suicidal? I don't even know if she'll believe me. I also don't want to lose her as a friend, but I can't watch her be all happy and giddy about him when I know that he doesn't even fucking respect her. There are times I think just to ignore it all and never mention it, but I know that this isn't right. Part 2. My best friend's husband confessed that he has feelings for me. Shortly after, Rick called to apologize for his behavior. He said he never meant for it to come out, but that he's very unhappy with his marriage and now he sees no escape with the baby on the way. He then said he would never be this confused about his feelings if Mia didn't have feelings for my boyfriend, on which they have been trying to work on for a while, but he's so exhausted from it all that he just wants to end it. He said that he's confused about his feelings for me, but he also wanted to hurt her so that she can see what she's putting him through and how painful it is to be in love with somebody who's a constant in their lives. Basically, he tried to spin the entire thing on Mia's trauma. I told him if he's so unhappy with his choices, he can just leave without vicious lies and that he didn't have any reason to put me or my boyfriend in the middle of this. He just said that he didn't mean for it to happen and we ended the call on that. I went to Mia afterwards and told her about Rick's confession. Obviously, she was heartbroken about this, but seemed to accept it at face value. I then told her what Rick said in the call since I thought she deserves to know that he's making stuff up behind her back. That's when she broke down and said that she had no idea how it happened. She would never act on it anyways, and that Rick was never supposed to tell me about it, but that's something between them that they are so close to resolving. She said she saw how my partner treats me and my kid, and how that's something that she desperately wants but is just so unlucky. Call me selfish, but if we were friends as I believe we were, I would expect her to come forward with this, trauma related or not. It isn't just between Rick and Mia. It involves other people now that were unwillingly put into this entire situation. She spent one-on-one time with my partner so many times and she never felt bad enough to tell me, or at least to attempt to stay away from him and give me some fake reason for it. I know she needs support right now, but I can't do this. I simply can and won't, and if I'm an a-hole for it, then so be it. I'm fine with a stupid crush. We're all only humans, and especially with her history, I would 100% understand to help her out if she came to me about it. Lying in the betrayal that went on for years, on the other hand, I simply cannot forgive that easily, especially after everything we've been through and the things that she knows that I've been through. I told her that I need some space. She tried to call me after I left, but I'm too tired to talk to her at all, and I can't see myself doing so anytime soon. I bit my boyfriend's member because he wouldn't stop head pushing, but now I feel really guilty. It didn't seem like a big deal at the time, but it's keeping me up. We've known each other for about 6 months and started hooking up in October. The head pushing has never been a problem until a few weeks ago. I don't mind a little, but he gets so aggressive that it hurts. I've communicated with him in more ways than one that I don't like how aggressive he is. I'll stop him when he's doing it just for him to resume not even a minute later. I told him during and outside of it, so I really don't think I could have been any more clear. Earlier today, I was going down on him and he started again. Like usual, I moved his hands off my head. I told him to be gentle. I told him it hurts when he does it all within 5 minutes. He just wouldn't stop. At first, I just bit down a little with my front teeth. That didn't work, so I bit the head with my molars. Not that hard, probably enough to break a baby carrot. He yelled and pushed me off of him and started asking what the hell was wrong with me. I told him that he's the one that can't do one single thing that I've asked him so many times not to do when I'm doing something for him. He kept telling me that it doesn't matter, that you should never do that to anyone, blah blah blah. We bickered for a couple minutes and he eventually left while calling me dirty names on his way out. I honestly wasn't expecting to do it. I'm just so tired of having my boundaries broken. I've been extremely clear and direct when telling him to simply not push my head. I don't understand why that's so hard to comprehend. Is there something that I'm not understanding? Does it make the head better? I just feel like I'm doing this one and only thing for him. I get no pleasure out of it. I don't even like doing it. It just feels so dirty and so disrespectful with the amount of times I had to ask him not to. But I can't help but to feel bad. I'm worried that I might have hurt him more than I intended to. I don't want to call or message him, but I don't even know where he is right now. I don't know if I should have taken a different approach to this because I don't know if our relationship will come back from this with how upset he was when he left.